Hello, 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 ChangeNOW. Am I talking to a wall? Is that what's happening here? Hi, folks, how you doing? I know it's the end of the day, but isn't this the most exciting session you've come to all day? Just say yes to make me feel better. I'm here, so it must be the most exciting one, right? Some of you have joined and gone, who is this crazy woman on the stage? My name is Lavalda Vincenzi. I'm going to be the moderator for this session. If you haven't already noticed that I might be bringing a little bit of lightheartedness to some of the conversation. But I find that if we can have a conversation in a human-centric way, we manage to make a lot of progress. So if that's okay with you, we're going to have a little bit of fun here whilst we educate ourselves. So just by way of reminder, this session is the session on retrofitting our cities and buildings. So if that's what you've come for, you're in the right place. There are lots of seats. For those of you who are joining, do come in and just make your way in and take a seat. So retrofitting is a foundational element in creating urban landscapes that are both more resilient and environmentally conscious. In this session, we're going to explore collaborative initiatives among cities, experts, innovative business owners to harness the potential of retrofitting in order to drive change. First, we're going to kick off with somebody who is literally growing buildings. Literally growing buildings. You know, when you have an idea and you think, you know what, why don't we just grow the building from the ground? Why don't we just do that? She had this idea, and that is now precisely what she's doing. She was born in the Arctic. She's one of LinkedIn's green top voices. She quit her job at MasterCard in order to pursue a career in impact. Please give a warm round of applause for the head of Earth Plus, Elena Doms.
Okay, all good. Three years ago, I received a message on LinkedIn from an entrepreneur called Frederick Verstraeten. He said I was an interesting contact, bonus points for getting my attention, and that he was doing something really innovative and was all over the news. There were 3 links in that message. They were about bio-based construction, soil pollution, and industrial hemp. You see, when I received that message, I was working at MasterCard and I was feeling desperate. Please don't get me wrong, I loved the company and I loved the people I was working with. But it was a few days before my birthday, and I just received "Thank you for your 10 years of company service" award. And if birthdays make us think 1 year back and 1 year forward, holding that award in my hands literally made me think in decades. And I loved my previous decade, but my heart was screaming at me that my next decade had to be different. I don't know if your heart talks to you like that. Mine does all the time. That message came at the right moment. But little did I know that that message would introduce me to the world of construction, that it would literally change my life, and that it would bring me here on stage today, working together with Frederick, who is in this room too. Why are we talking about cities and buildings, and sustainability and construction? Because construction is one of the largest polluters. It's responsible for almost 40% of our greenhouse gas emissions because of the materials and the energy use, and for 30% of waste. That's 1.3 billion tons of construction waste a year. To help you visualize that, that's like the weight of all the buildings in New York twice. Every year, we are throwing away 2 New Yorks of buildings. It's like construction is turning into a fast fashion. We used to treasure buildings. Nobody is thinking of demolishing the Colosseum. Instead, we queued there on a sunny day with a tasty gelato in our hands, just so that we could marvel at history and wonder how it was. But now we build, and in 20 years, we take it away to give place to something new. But construction has a much better side to it too, very human and a wonderful one. Because why do we build in the first place? Because we want safe places to thrive. Safe places where we can work on something new together with our colleagues. Safe places where we can learn and meet other people like we do today. Or safe places where we can come home, cuddle on a couch, and get our faces plastered with stickers. Or that we could have a quiet moment and then turn around and discover that there's been an explosion of toys in the living room. These are my kids, by the way, during the pandemic. Or that we could travel new places and check out how bouncy the hotel beds are. I personally think that the beds are only as good as they're bouncy. Otherwise, what's the fun? So cities and buildings, they help shape our memories. And they might seem to be the most mundane ones at the moment, but they're also one of the most precious ones. So how do we bridge that gap and make construction better? What if I tell you there is an answer that makes better buildings and better cities, and the answer that is restorative for nature? And that answer is bio-based construction. Now you might tell me, Elena, I have seen the Three Little Pigs fairy tale. Two brothers went bio-based. One built from straw, another one from wood, and their houses collapsed under the pressure of the big bad wolf. It's only the house of the third brother, who built from brick, could keep the big bad wolf out. And I want to keep the big bad wolf out of my house. And you're right, I fully agree. But the thing is, when we think about bio-based construction, we usually think of wooden houses like this. This is not a random house, this is actually my house. I grew up in the Arctic, and when I was 3 years old, my parents bought this small piece of land outside of the city to embark on a crazy, risky journey of the Arctic agriculture. And my dad built this wooden house all by himself. We spent amazing summers over there, growing vegetables and fruits and berries. I remember eating them from the bushes by kilograms, and swimming in the ice-cold river and playing with the neighborhood kids past midnight. But we can't scale these types of buildings everywhere. For many reasons, but one of those reasons being that we kind of need trees for something else, like the oxygen that we breathe, like creating rain for our crops and our showers, like biodiversity and regulating climate on Earth. And let's face it, in Europe we say that we don't do deforestation, but in reality, we've cut down everything that we could already. I'll give you an example. This is a picture of Iceland. It's one of the most surreal landscapes that I have seen, with no tree in sight. But did you know that 1,000 years ago, Iceland was full of trees until we cut them down? Now they are struggling to bring even 1% of those trees back. So yes, construction is going to be some combination of brick, and even for that, there are upcoming solutions. But it's also, especially with retrofitting, what we put inside those brick walls that can really make a huge difference. Today, I want to present you a product that will revolutionize construction for the upcoming years. It looks like this. We like to call it a giant Oreo cookie. Some say that it looks like an ice cream sandwich. But what it is, it's a building sandwich panel. Now, a building sandwich panel is a modular element that you can use for different buildings. And one of the most common ones is made out of wood on the outside and fossil fuel-based insulation on the inside. Let's discover what this sandwich panel is made of. On the outside, you have reinforced hemp wood. It's made out of plant called industrial hemp. It looks like this. It grows extremely fast, up to 4 meters in just 4 months. And because of that, it helps us save 1,000 trees per hectare per year. It's also one of the strongest natural fibers, so it's stronger than wood. It's circular, so you can repurpose it at the end of life or chop it and make exactly the same panel as before. And because it grows so fast, in these 4 months, it captures up to 4 times more CO2 than a young forest in a year. So it also stores carbon. Now let's look on the inside. The inside of this sandwich panel is made out of mycelium, or mushrooms. My story with mushrooms goes back to that summer house in the Arctic boreal forests, because my dad used to take me there to gather mushrooms and berries. This is a picture of me on a particularly successful day. My dad and my mom, we went to the forest. First, my dad took us through the swamps, literal swamps. So he showed us where to step so that we don't get sucked in and stuck. That's Arctic 101 for kids. You learn how to walk on ice and on swamps. And then we reached those remote islands, and they were full of mushrooms everywhere you looked. We picked them up, baskets of them, came home, cleaned them, and my mom made the most delicious mushroom and potato pie. And you see, I thought that I knew a thing or two about mushrooms because I could distinguish the good ones and the bad ones. But turns out I was just scratching the surface. What you see on this picture is mushroom fruit. But it's what happens below the ground that is particularly fascinating. If you have heard the trees communicate with each other, they do that through mycelium network or through fungi. That's how they send signals. That's how they send nutrients. Fungi also take carbon and store it under the ground, and they make our nature circular. They are the end and the beginning of all new life. So this sandwich panel, the inside of it, is just hemp fibers with mycelium sprayed on it, and it grows in 7 days. Only 7 days. Imagine we used to extract fossil fuels from the ground, emit a lot of CO2, send them through complex manufacturing processes so that we could have insulation for our houses. Now we can just grow mycelium insulation in 7 days locally. Also, fossil fuel-based insulation does the job of keeping out the cold, so we can cut down our heating costs. But once the heat is in, it's really difficult to get it out. If you have one of those houses, maybe you noticed, I have one, and every summer I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to open all the windows just to get a little bit of fresh air. And by noon, it's hot again. Well, this insulation also keeps the cold out, but it also has a better heat capacity, so it lets the heat out too. Meaning that we have to spend less money cooling our buildings, which is particularly important with the heating climate. Put together, this sandwich panel moves us closer to a vision of construction and buildings turning from huge carbon emitters into huge carbon sinks. Now we can literally grow our cities and buildings. Now you might wonder, this is all fantastic, but if you're going to start growing our buildings, where are we going to do that? Where are we going to grow our food? And here is the fascinating part. With the help of plants like industrial hemp and mycelium, we can help bring soils back. I'll give you an example. Here you see the picture of French fries. Now, I live in Belgium. We do say that fries are from Belgium, so they should be called Belgian as they are the best in the world. I thought you should know. But jokes aside, whatever type of potatoes you like, whether it's French fries with ketchup and mayonnaise, or it's puree, or it's stomped with vegetables for my Belgian countrymen, or it's potato chips, farmers can grow this delicious crop for us only once in 4 or 5 years. Because potatoes suck all the nutrients out of the soil, and in between they need to grow something else to bring the soils back. Well, scientists have calculated that if you use rotation crops like industrial hemp, you can help restore the soils, and you can bring the yields of the main crops by 5 to 15%. Why is that important? Because globally, 52% of our agricultural soil is already degraded. In the EU, that number is even higher, 60 to 70%. That's 100 million hectares just here in the EU right now. And that number is going to be 90% by 2050 if we don't do anything. So why not use the strengths and the superpowers of plants and mycelium to help us. I'll take you a bit further than that. Our soils are not just degraded, they are polluted too. Here you can see the research on just one type of pollution in our fruits and berries. 20% of the EU-grown fruit and berries contain forever chemicals in them. In strawberries, that number is 37%. This is what we literally put in our bodies. And we think that soils and us are far away, but 95% of our food comes from soils. So I have news for you, my friends. Soils and our guts have the same bacteria and nutrients. So if soils are depleted and are polluted, so are we. We can only be healthy if our soils are healthy. Now you see where I'm going with this? We can actually have holistic solutions that make construction better and cheaper, that also restore soils in the meantime, and remove CO2 and create local jobs. It's a story of radical collaboration between construction, agriculture, industry, and cities. And we like to say that simple scales, but I disagree. Simple is what got us here in the first place. We need to think and learn from nature, do like nature does. Nature is circular. Nature is complex. And if we learn from nature and use nature as our ally, we can actually solve several problems at once. Last but not least, we like technology and engineering because we can measure exactly what it does. So we thought, why not give the same transparency to nature? That's why we partnered up with Microsoft, Delaware, and Vito Research Institute to build a platform that will trace everything from the field into the final product, where with the help of satellite imagery, we can check how the crops are growing. We can trace how they were harvested, where they were transported, where they were produced, and then in which buildings they were placed, so that we can ensure circularity. And that would result in near real-time ESG reporting for our partners and ultra-transparent carbon credits, AAA. For decades, construction was on a one-way road towards environmental wreck. Companies know we need to change, but there was a conflict between the business economics and sustainability, leaving sustainability as a nice to have. Not anymore. Now we have a business model that creates a win-win for everybody and regenerates our nature. If you'd love to learn more about technology or products or touch the sandwich panel and other material with your hands, please come visit us at our booth. Thanks to Microsoft, we are here. Or reach us through this QR code. If these types of problems and solutions is something that you care about, let's talk today. Thank you.
Just a little pregnant pause in the middle there, just for you to really let that sink in. Just a beautiful way of thinking about economics and business and building cities that are actually good for the planet, but also good for business, which brings us beautifully into our first panel. Welcome those of you who've just joined us as you've come up the stairs. My name's Leval de Vincenzi. Welcome to what might be seen as slightly different, but it's okay. We're about to have some fun here talking about cities. So in this panel, we're going to dive into the fundamental question: what truly constitutes a sustainable building? It involves the development of new constructions. It also looks at what's efficient and environmentally friendly, but also what contributes to the overall well-being of people. Joining me to have this discussion, we've got the CEO of Tarkett, Fabrice Barthélémy, and we've also got the Deputy CEO of Leroy, Merlin, Marie Simunic. Please join me on stage. Hello. Take a seat. Hello, hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Marie, I'm going to start with you because those of us who are based in France, I say those of us as if I'm one of those. I'm not, I'm based in London. But for those of you who are based in France, you're probably very, very familiar with Leroy Merlin. For those who aren't, can you maybe tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so for those who don't know us, we are in France the leader of home improvement with 144 stores and a website, the first website for home improvement. And in fact, we have around 20% of French people that are visiting either our stores or our website to get solutions, and we will see more and more sustainable ones to renovate the house.
Fantastic. So we'll come back to what some of your sustainable solutions are. Fabrice, for people who haven't heard about Tarkett, can you tell us a little bit more?
Tarkett is a family-owned company, a global one, with about 3 billion in sales and 12,000 employees. And we are specialized in making sustainable flooring for commercial and residential buildings, such as workplace, hospitals, universities, colleges. And we are also a specialist in sports surfaces, outdoor sports surfaces, such as artificial turf or running tracks.
Fantastic. So now that we've got context, we're here to talk about retrofitting in particular. Marie, you're helping with home improvement, and it's not, our minds don't necessarily go to retrofitting when we think of your business. So can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing that's helping people with retrofitting buildings?
Yeah, in fact, we are on the renovation market for exactly 100 years now, because our company has 100 years this year. It's our birthday. And we help people to renovate their houses. We are in B2C market and mainly in DIY, so we give solutions either with product, and mainly people come to visit our stores to find product, and we try to make it more and more sustainable, repairable with recycled material. So we have a deep program with our suppliers to find new solutions, to co-invest also, to have the capacity, the ability to find new solutions. And we are mainly engaged in a battle which is energetic renovation, because we will have the occasion to go deeper in the subject. But for sure, it's a huge subject for people to renovate their house and find an easy, simple solution to do it.
I mean, when you say it like that, it makes sense. We think of retrofitting as let's go in, take an old warehouse and repurpose that warehouse so that we create homes. But it's also let's go into existing homes and make them more efficient, energy-wise. And in the current landscape, we can see how they would definitely be the forefront of consumers' minds. Fabrice, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing around retrofitting in particular, as opposed to new materials?
Yeah, it's nearly the same, actually. We are a manufacturing company. We are a supplier of Marie's suppliers. And you might think, because we are a manufacturing company, that we make new homes and new buildings and so on. Actually, 80% of what we do is about refurbishing or retrofitting existing buildings. And that's in all sectors, whether it is sports or commercial, hospitals, offices. It's all about renovation.
So we've been using this word retrofitting and renovation almost interchangeably. So I want to take a few steps back to make sure we're all on the same page. What do we mean when we say retrofitting? What does that cover? What sort of materials, products, approaches, Fabrice, are covered when we use that term retrofitting?
Well, I think when we use retrofitting, we mean also improving as well as we renovate, but renovation with a certain level of improvement, whether it is in terms of material we use, the sustainability content of these materials, whether it is in terms of design or performance. Retrofitting is all about that.
Improving the design. Do you agree, Marie?
Yes, in fact, when you talk about retrofitting, at the end, it's often a matter of energy. But to do it, you have to pass through different steps. First, you have to be sure that your house is isolating. Then, to have good ventilation, to have a good air atmosphere. Then, to be sure to have the good way of heating it. And we know that there is more and more sustainable solutions to do that. And at the end, if you want to well renovate, you have to produce sustainable energy and to pilot it. And we have now a lot of solutions from insulation to smart connected products that allows people to first have a good renovation and at the end be able to pilot with data, with intelligence, all their product at home.
Fabrice, you mentioned earlier that this is about improving buildings. Yeah. So it kind of gets me thinking, what were people doing before? You know, you're in this space. We think, what happens if we're not improving? What's the alternative? What were people doing instead?
Well, people have to renovate at some point. Because, say, in an office space, for example, you change tenant, the space will be totally rearranged and repurposed. And there's no real alternative to renovation. But what we try to do is that as we bring new material for renovation, we try to achieve two goals. One is to bring better materials than the one we take out. For example, in terms of acoustic performance, sound insulation, better design, or materials better fit for the purpose. If you are around your coffee machine, you don't want carpet tiles that will be soiled after a few weeks. You want nice tiles that will be easy to clean, for example. And by doing that, we want also to take care of material we take out, actually, which is a big problem. You heard Elena before. She mentioned that 30% of the waste globally is produced by the construction industry at large. So that's also a very important point we want to address.
So it's not, we need something that's functional and going to fit the purpose. We want to think about better materials in terms of the environmental impact. But we also need to think about what we're doing with the materials that we're taking out of the building.
Absolutely.
And from a consumer perspective, Marie, when people are coming in, is there a demand from people? Are they thinking now more about the insulation of their homes and wanting to make different choices? Or are they just looking for the thing that's going to be cheapest and easiest to implement?
In fact, both. First, people want to save money. The first criteria when they choose a product or solutions is to understand how they can make economy first, and more and more people are aware and concerned about the sustainability. So we try to propose solutions that combine both, to say you have not to choose either on price or on quality and sustainability. We are now, with our suppliers and our partners, able to propose solutions that combine both and to be affordable and sustainable, either on products, and as Fabrice told, we work with Tarkett and we work with our suppliers on research and development to find new materials, but not very expensive ones. But we also, regarding the energetic renovation, with the financing approach, to find solutions and to help people not to have to choose between quality, sustainability, and price.
I think regardless of whether it's a consumer or whether it's B2B, the question of price is always there, right, Fabrice?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We are more B2B actually than B2C. I mean, Marie is doing that B2C part for us, but we find that price is always part of the equation, and it's a problem for us because sometimes more sustainable, many occasions actually, more sustainable solutions are also more expensive. Recycling takes money. Collecting waste takes money. All those solutions are more expensive, and not everyone is prepared to pay for those, because nowhere, actually, whether we are individuals or companies, we don't account very well for the cost of our carbon emissions. And that's a big problem. So in the end, we always discuss about price because that remains the talking point and the decision criterion.
Yeah, and what is important now is to be able to explain what there is behind the price. We have started to launch like a Nutri-Score for the food, but for home, that's called Home Index. It's a score that we calculate on each product based on 40 criteria, either environmental or social, to explain to our consumer the quality, environmental and social quality that there is in the product behind the price, and to help them to choose with consciousness of what they buy. And we hope that it can help our suppliers also to move forward in this kind of solution, and to be able also to explain all the quality there is behind the product and behind the price.
So how do we, and I think it's an important question, we want to, we're here at ChangeNOW, and people who come into a space like this have a level of consciousness already. There's already a level of thinking we need to do better. But at the core of it, there's only so much resources that individuals and companies have access to. How do we better explain buildings in a way that helps people to make better quality decisions as it pertains to the planet? Fabrice, maybe you might want to start with that one.
I think I am personally surprised by how fast society is changing. 4 or 5 years ago, I'm B2B. 4 or 5 years ago, I was visiting customers, owners of hospitals or hotels or office spaces, and I had to bring the topic of sustainability. I had to bring that up, talking about recycled materials and so on. Now, especially since a couple of years, those people, they actually ask us to pitch on that very topic of sustainability. And the reason they don't do that just for good, but I understand also that behind them, there's a whole lot of people who care about it, and especially in the office space, employees care about how the retrofitting or refurbishing projects are being handled. So there is also a pressure from society that I think is probably bigger in commercial than it is in B2C, but it's coming.
It's really nice to hear that, because I think sometimes we can think, oh, my little voice here doesn't make much of a difference. And so it's helpful to hear that it does in these big projects. If what the organization is hearing from their employees and their consumers is, we want to understand what you're doing for planet.
It does.
They're then having different conversations with suppliers like you. Are you seeing, Maria, are you seeing the same sort of thing in terms of the consumer landscape? Are more people coming in asking about the origin of materials and wanting things that are better for the planet as they are doing home renovations? Is it coming from that side as well, from a consumer perspective?
Yes, as I told you, yes, for sure it comes. They express it. They want to have information and transparency about what they buy, and that's why we create this home index. And they don't want to choose between quality and price. And for sure, it's a real matter for us not to make that like an elitist choice, but to make it affordable for everybody. And it's possible. In fact, we really see when we co-invest in some plant with our suppliers, we are able to provide this kind of product. When we propose a product with less material, we are able to make it also affordable, and people want to have this kind of solution now.
So it's possible to make it good for the planet, great quality, and commercially sensible.
For sure.
Do we think, because people will argue there's not enough, we know we have events like this because we're not there yet. There's so much more that we need to do, and we're still pushing too close to planetary boundaries. Arguably, in some cases, we've far exceeded them. what do you think the role, if any, of regulation or legislation should be to accelerate these sorts of choices, so we're making better choices as it pertains to our buildings? Marie, do you think there's a role for legislation?
Yeah, for sure, the role of legislation, either regulation or incentive, is crucial. We are here with a lot of people really engaged in this climate change, but in fact, a lot of companies or people need to have incentive to move forward and to be able also to invest, because as Fabrice said, it costs to organize a new process, and it costs to change the way we are working. So for sure, we need either regulation, but also stability. And we can talk about energetic renovation. Each time we change the rule, we make questions in a technical market for the client, and they are not able to move forward on such a project that can take a lot of months. So we really need now to have a stability and a long vision on the way policies want to support this kind of program.
So we need the policies, but we need stable policies. Fabrice, I could see you nodding your head there.
Yeah, I find it funny, actually, because here we are, Maria and I, we're not heading charities, you know, we head profit-making organizations, and we are here talking about regulation, and we want more regulation. I'm all in with what Marie said. We need more regulation, otherwise there's always the cheaper and less sustainable solution that can undercut us. I have an example to give. You heard, once again, there was a very good slide showing that 30% of waste is generated by construction. It is true. We do a lot of renovation, and the first step of renovation is actually to take out some old material, remove them. What happens with those materials? In most cases in Europe, they are incinerated. 90% is incinerated. Why is that? Is it because there is no solution to recycle them? Absolutely not. There are technical solutions. They are not very expensive. They are feasible technically, but it is cheaper for our customers, the people who renovate, to send them to incineration. And here, there is only one way, actually. At some point, the European communities or member states, need to increase that cost of incineration to make it more interesting for our customers to actually direct those products back to the recycling centers that we all have.
So people need to be incentivized to make the right decision, because I guess the thing that we sometimes forget, companies are profit-bearing. You know, like you said, you're not charities, and renovating a building is not cheap.
It's very expensive. Sure.
And so there comes a point where when you're looking at the numbers, if there's something that's a little bit more affordable, even if it's not as good, sometimes we're putting great stuff in the building, so maybe we don't think so much about how we got rid of the stuff out of the building, which is not the route that we want to go forward. We've talked a lot about regulation, potential solutions, some of the commercial viability, and often when we think of buildings, I mean, Elena alluded to it earlier, these are homes. These are places for people to be in. Beyond climate, what other benefits can be gained from retrofitting, but particularly gained from retrofitting buildings with sustainability in mind? Marie, I'll have you go first.
Yeah, with pleasure. In fact, when we talk about renovation, as you said, we talk about home, and we talk about the place people live, and often it's a great place, but sometimes it's not that great. We are working now for 3 years with an association called Stop à l'exclusion énergétique, so stop to energetic exclusion. And we have visited a lot of houses with people in precarity. And in fact, when you are in precarity, you are not able to have heat in your house on the winter. So your family, your children can be ill, have disease. You are not able to receive people at home. So day by day, you are not socialized. For some people, it's a lot of expenses to pay energy. and their purchasing power go lower and lower, and they have to decide between some basic needs like food and to have heat at home. And we really now are conscious that if we help people to refine dignity, to have a solution to renovate their house, they can go further to social life, to health. So it's not only a matter of environment and not only a matter of business, even if for a lot of people it's an opportunity of business too, but it's also a matter of social life and human being, for sure.
I know in the UK each year in winter there's a question about particularly elderly people who are on pensions, are they going to be able to heat their homes? And so I think sometimes we can think of climate purely from the perspective of saving the planet. And there's an element there that you're alluding to, which is, you know, saving the person in the moment. If the way the climate is going, we're either going to be too hot or too cold. And neither of those is great positions for us to be in. Fabrice, I can see you had something to add.
Yeah, I think we are, I am fully in line with what you are saying, and I think on top of that, this adds an element of purpose to your employees, like it does to ours, and like it does to the ones of our customers when we talk about commercial building. I am impressed by more and more people who want to use used carpet tiles or reused carpet tiles or reused furniture, because that's part of the purpose they give to, that is important to their people when they enter in a new office space and open a new headquarters, for example. So that element of purpose, we are doing this for good and for the good of humanity of the planet. That is also an important element, whether it is just socially or environmentally.
And is there an opportunity B2B to think beyond just, you know, the impact of the person? Because you kind of alluded to a few things there. Is there the opportunity, for example, when we're emptying a building, to make that a social event that is actually having a better impact rather than taking all of these materials out and just disposing of them?
Absolutely, because I mean, lots of what the material that we take out of buildings can be reused somewhere else. So, but that is. So we have lots of initiatives on that are more local initiatives with the communities, with people who need. But it's not at scale. Let's be honest. It's very difficult to scale to the scale of large companies like ours.
Marie, at Merlin, Leroy Merlin, you also do quite a bit of training. Tell us about this, because if I'm going to go and make changes to my house, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's decorating a wall, it feels like a lot of education. And you're talking about changing heating systems, which is even more complicated. How do you support the general public in making better quality decisions on something that's arguably quite complex?
Yeah, at the beginning we were retailers of products, and when we work with our teams, we really understood that renovating a house is a really stressful journey. It's a lot of questions, and it's a lot of regulations too. So we have decided to train first 3,000 of our employees, so almost 10% of our employees, to help them to understand the problem of the client. Is it a single solution that they need, or a more global renovation? And then we have decided to create a new job, which called Energetic Renovation Advisor. So we have now 96 advisors in all our stores that are trained and certified by La Solive, and we will talk with Ariane just after. She will explain what La Solive do, and it's wonderful. These people are now able in our stores to welcome inhabitants, to help them to understand their energetic diagnosis, to understand the aids they can have, and these aids can be national, can be local, can be from association, and also to help them to do all the works in the good order. So it's a unique interlocutor that helps people to have less stress, to have a unique interlocutor to ask questions and to go further the project month by month, because we know that in average it's 8 months of project renovation, and sometimes it could be longer. So it's really important. And last thing, sorry, is these advisors find the good actors in local. Sometimes we need craftsmen. Sometimes we need companies that have whole solution, are able to sell a product with installation, and as brand and trusted brand, because it's a market that there is a lot of non-trusted people. Yeah. We help inhabitants to be sure to have good suppliers and good installers at home, because that's the place where they live, so they need to have trustful people to come to their house.
So it's a great story for anybody who was thinking of doing a renovation anytime soon. You know exactly where to go to find some more information. We are out of time, but I'm going to sneak in an additional question just really quickly to you, Fabrice. What's one bold prediction that you have for the future of sustainable building materials?
The one bold prediction is that there is not going to be one bold solution. It's going to be a lot of different solutions. We saw the fungi actually growing house just before. It's probably part of the solution. Biomaterials are part of the solution. Recycling is part of the solution as well. Reuse. All this is needed because there's so much to do and so much constraints, actually so many constraints, that we need to use all the solutions that are available to be able to really improve the environmental footprint of buildings and cities.
Fantastic. And good news to all of you. You're here at ChangeNOW. There's lots of bold solutions for us to take a look at as well. Thank you both so much. It's been Marie and Fabrice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just head off in that direction. So we've had a really interesting conversation about buildings. We've talked a little bit about solutions, and we've touched on the challenges of training. And I say touched on because we're about to dive into it in a lot more detail. If we aim to transition to energy renovation, a major challenge is providing comprehensive and invigorating training and energy renovation. Essentially, we need people to make the changes to the buildings, especially where it alludes to retrofitting. Solive is a school that trains professionals in energy renovation every year. It's trained over 600 people in 2.5 years, with the goal to train 2,000 more in the year 2025. Please give a warm round of applause and welcome to the stage the co-founder and CEO of La Solive. Please welcome Ariane. Oh my gosh, Ariane, Komorn. It's the end of the day. My tongue's getting a little bit twisted. Sorry about that. Welcome to the stage. Can you tell us a little bit about La Solive? What do you do? Tell us about the training. Why do we need it?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is that what's funny about buildings, and it has been said before, it's that everybody agrees that actually it needs to be retrofitted. It's one of the key points where everybody agrees now. But there is one major bottleneck today, which is the lack of skilled professionals to really handle the retrofit projects. And actually, 3 years ago, I was at the end of my own career transition journey, and I thought, yeah, well, what could be a solution to this problem? And I think a solution to this problem is actually to help people reskill to energy renovation jobs. And this is what we have built over the past 3 years. We deploy reskilling programs that provide job in energy retrofitting for people who have no background in construction. And yeah, basically, as you've said, we have trained over 600 people so far, and we are really growing activity rapidly, so very promising trainings.
So some would argue there's lots of builders and people who can, plumbers and electricians. Is it really that different that there's a skill gap when it comes to retrofitting in particular? Is a different skill set required? Is that where, why is there such a is there a distinction, and is it that big?
Yeah, actually, think about it. If you talk about new construction, new buildings, you have a blank page. So you have really limited constraints about how you want to really design and build your building. When we talk about existing buildings, you have to adapt to something that has a structure, that has a history, because it has had probably extensions, previous renovations, etc. So you need to think a lot about the building you're discovering. And the second thing is, well, the energy part is much more difficult than the aesthetics part, because, yeah, also if you think about it, it's heat transfers, it's really physics. So you really have to understand the physics behind heat transfers to be able to do really efficient renovation.
So it's different things. So are you saying it's a different skill set? So if you can install a boiler and you can install insulation, you don't have to think about those things on a brand new building?
Yeah, actually, well, let me give you this example. If you have, for example, installing a heat pump in a new building, first, plumbers, the people you're mentioning, today, what were their job? Either they work on new buildings and they were installing heat pumps on new buildings, which is very different, as I said, or they were just doing
like a
repairing,
service. Yeah,
repairing like gas boilers and things like that. So it's a very big gap for them, and we also provide actually upskilling modules for them. It's a big gap because installing, for example, heat pump or solar panels in an existing house, you need to think about where you're going to put your the raccord, you're going to how to branch your heat pump and everything. So it's very different, yeah.
And how long does this training take? So it's a different type of thinking. It's different. You know, it's not specifically sort of who you'd normally necessarily think of for doing these roles. So does this mean it's a few years of skilling up?
Well, today, in most existing solutions, it's a few years. So what we thought was, okay, if you want to help people, adults with works and families reskill, you cannot just give them like 2 years reskilling programs. So our promise was actually to do programs that are actually 2 to 3 times faster, 2 times cheaper, and that where you have much better skills upon graduation than existing solutions. So with us, if you get into a reskilling program, it's on average 3 months, super intensive 3 months actually. And you are sure to have a job at the end, because we will match you with a company that has recruitment needs, so that you're sure to have a job.
Why do you think we have a shortage in the first place? There's lots of people. We're building all of these new buildings. We're constantly changing them. It's a huge push at the moment. Why is this area, why do we have such a shortage in people with the right skill set for this particular change?
Actually, first, to give a bit of sense of how big is the shortage, it's if you take only France, France Stratégie has published a report saying that there are over 600,000 open positions by 2030.
600,000?
Just in France, and it's millions across the world. So it's huge. It's the most massive skills shortage that we've been through in history. So. And basically why, especially in buildings, I think that because building has this image, construction has had this image of being really, it suffers from a very bad image. It's this image of jobs that are low paid, where you're going to be working with very hard physical conditions, and with not a lot of social recognition. And I think the problem we tackle today is really the fact that for years you have been thinking that office jobs, like jobs where you have to wear like white shirts and suits, are a better sign of success than jobs where you have coveralls and you work outside, but you have like concrete impact on people's lives. And I think it's a very big problem and something we really need to change, because it's the jobs that are actually needed for transition.
You mentioned pay. And we can argue, especially over recent years, we've had incredible inflation problems across the globe. People need to feed their families, and highly skilled people will look for jobs that feel as if they're naturally a good fit for that. I'll go for technology or finance or one of these jobs where I know that there's that income potential. What is the income potential in a retrofitting? So if you were thinking, I've been thinking about climate for a while, it feels like a good fit for me. What is the potential income stretch there? Is it big because we have such a big shortage, or is it about the same as going into a standard kind of role in this space?
Well, actually, there are, of course, very many jobs in energy renovation, so not all have the same income. But if I talk first about technical jobs, so technicians or people who are really going to work on the ground, to give you an example, like a heat pump installer, when he is graduated from La Solive, he's going to earn as a first salary around 2,000 euro per month in France, which is quite nice in France, net. And when he actually becomes more experienced, he's going to make 3,000 euros every month. For people who did not do 10 years of university studies, and you also have more like project managers and engineers and a lot of other works that are needed, where actually there is such a tension in terms of a number of people skilled to do that, that actually the income are really rising. So I really invite those who are interested to actually look into that. And we provide actually grids of salaries to give people examples of how much they can make from these jobs.
So we've got a really big skill gap that you've mentioned, and as great as it is for individuals to sort of come in one by one to get themselves trained up, we've got big construction projects that need big impact. Do you work commercially? Do you work with some of these larger organizations as well? Can you come in and train their teams? I think we heard a little bit earlier about what you've been doing with Leroy Merlin. Okay, there we go. Let's not kick things over, Levalda. Do you do that side of things as well in terms of corporate scalability?
Yeah, actually, we do two things in terms of companies we work with. First, we work with a lot of artisan companies in the building sector. You have mainly small companies. So we help these small companies recruit new technicians, and basically it's actually those companies that pay for the trainings of the people that we source and train for them.
So they don't even have to wait they don't have to go out to market. They can almost use you like a recruitment firm.
Absolutely. They use us like a recruitment firm. That's exactly that. Yeah, absolutely. And this is something they need because they don't have like a HR service that's going to do that for them. And they have little time and they need something that really works. We provide them with like a few talent and they choose one and then they can start the collaboration. And this is one thing. And the other thing is that we partner with great players, and you heard Marie from Leroy Merlin. We have a very big partnership with Leroy Merlin, and she explained a bit this ambitious program of training energy renovation experts in all their stores. And we also partner with industrial players. We partner, for example, with providers of insulation materials like Saint-Gobain, or we partner with heat pump manufacturers, solar panel manufacturers, because they also want their partner companies to grow, recruit more people so they can do more quality retrofit projects. And this helps us really scale the solution that we're developing.
So are you based purely in France? Because there'll be people maybe watching the replay of this, I don't know, sometime in the future. Hello, future folks. And they're thinking, oh, this is super exciting. I'd love to get involved. Can she come and help us? Is it possible for people outside of France to access the service as well?
well, tomorrow, like the day after tomorrow, no. Today we are based in France. We have campuses, physical campuses, in Paris, Lyon, and Nantes. We're opening 8 new campuses in the years 25 and 26. But then our project, of course, is to expand internationally, because we have the exact same problems that actually occur in the rest of Europe and in the US, for example. So we really think of making the solution as scalable as possible, so that we could provide it abroad, because it remains very local employment. And this, I think it really needs to be understood. It's local employment, something that cannot be moved to other countries that with lower salaries, and that cannot be replaced by ChatGPT either. So you need to have campuses and people trained locally.
ChatGPT can't fix this one?
For now, no. Probably when they make like robots coming to your house and fixing your installation, probably, but not tomorrow.
Why do you think it's so important to upskill? Because your business model is very much, let's upskill individuals rather than, you know, we could have colleges and universities where people just get trained, come out and go straight into the industry. Why is upskilling, do you think, is the route for us to make a shift faster?
I think it's jobs where the required skills are evolving very quickly. So basically you have new technologies coming like every 2 years in like solar panels, for example. You have things are moving really fast, which is a good thing. So it's not appropriate to have super long training programs where people will spend 2 years learning things that are obsolete when they graduate. So you need, I think, the model that we're going into, and generally for energy transition, is people going back to be trained every 2 years to learn what's moved, what's evolved, and what new skills they need to stay really relevant on the market.
And as it's upskilling, is there a particular type of person that's ripe for stepping into this sort of role? Is there a particular background or way of thinking where you kind of go, because there might be a few people thinking, I've got a friend who could do with a new job, who's been complaining about the role that they're in right now, and I'm just wondering whether or not they'd be a good fit.
Well, tell them to actually call us, because we have a test to actually validate or not that you're fit for entering energy retrofit. Because the answer to your question, I think, is there is no specific background. We don't require any knowledge about construction to come into our programs, but not everyone is fit for this job. And we're going to test whether the person has really understood what it means to go in this or that job, and if this person is really, if it's the right fit. So no specific background, but I think really the desire to do something with your hands, the desire to work with your brain too, because as I said, existing buildings, you need to think in terms, you need to be very astute and ingenious, and there are ways to test that, but you don't need to have a background in construction.
Do you need to have had a degree or something like that in order to reskill?
No, certainly not. No degrees, even for more like a project manager job or for a technical job. You don't need a degree, you need a mindset. It's very important.
And I think that's useful. I like that you say the barrier to entry in terms of you don't need to have been in construction and understood sustainability or had a few degrees in order to be able to get into this space, because it is a really, really big problem that we're facing. What is your bold prediction for the future of retrofitting as a career choice?
Well, I would say that retrofitting is the new sexy.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. No, this is really what we want to make. We want to make that happen. We want to change the image of buildings, and retrofitting is something that you're proud that your children are going to work in this area, because it's something that provides good jobs, well paid, and with a very, very tremendous impact on people's lives and on the planet. Like, who doesn't want that?
It feels to me similar to the transition that we had with technology. You know, when there was a point where you just couldn't find enough developers, and now, it sounds really bad if I say this, loads of people are developers, but this is like the new developer route, right? Where it's got that extra sexy edge, because now you can get development jobs that aren't having a positive impact, that are having a positive impact on the planet, but some aren't. I don't know that you can get a retrofitting job that isn't having a positive impact on the planet, that isn't going to be a natural consequence of the work that you do.
Yeah, but I think it's a great horizon to make it as desirable as a developer's job. And it has something more. It's something that you can actually, you can find a job absolutely everywhere where there are buildings. So basically you could, I don't say you can work from home, probably not, but you can.
I mean, it would kind of defeat
you can
the
work
object
from
of the
people's
exercise.
home, which is already something nice.
You can work from a home, it's probably
from
not
a
yours.
home, okay, yeah.
It's probably not yours. How do people find out more? Because this is, I mean, you've laid out the problem. We've got 600,000 job gap in France alone. So outside of France, you take those numbers, start doing the multiplication, it's huge. You've got the ability to bring individuals in to get direct training or to collaborate with organizations that are in the construction field and looking to find people who can fit those roles. Where do we find you?
We have a website because we are in the 21st century. So probably, go to our website. There's a lot of information there. And for those who have LinkedIn, I also am very active on LinkedIn,
Fantastic. Any last words that you'd love to leave us with as we leave here and go back out into our day? If there was just like one little nugget of wisdom that you want to have resonating in the back of our mind as we leave.
I think this idea of millions of jobs that are needed for energy transition and especially for retrofits, and it should be one of our key focus over the next few years. If people could remind that and make sure that they participate to change the image of these jobs, that would certainly help all of us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Ariane, please give her a warm round of applause. That brings us to the conclusion of this session. My name's been Laval de Vincenzi. It's been absolutely fabulous being here hosting this with you. And I'll see you in the next session. I'll be back tomorrow, not on this stage, on the main stage. Have a great rest of your day.
Somehow